So my presentation is on commas, colons, and semicolons. One of the sources I had used for information on commas was a video of a man named Phil Beadle, and he's a teacher, and he teaches. The video is of him showing uh, like high school students how to use commas correctly in like several different activities. And one thing that he said really, I thought stuck out to me was he said that words are like the melody, and punctuation is like the rhythm, because it sets how you're supposed to deliver what you're saying, and um, like when you're reading, how you're supposed to read something correctly, and when you're writing, how you want that person to read what you're saying correctly. And so I just thought that was something really interesting to share. But so this is my poster that I made on commas, colons, and semicolons. And here are the 5 different ways to use a comma. And the first one is to separate words in a list or separate adjectives. And so that would be like for a grocery list, for example, um, like eggs, comma, milk, comma, bread. And to separate adjectives would be um, used in a sentence like, he was smart, comma, funny, comma, and handsome. And the second way is to introduce direct speech. And for example, when you're using quotations and you said something like, for example, as I said, comma, in quotations, I'm giving a speech, end quotations. And the third way would be before connective words. And for example, that's for, and, nor, but, yet, so. And the fourth way is after adverbial start. So like when you say, like I use violently, but you could use steadily, happily, and those are like adverbial starts. And so example, it says violently, comma, he screamed. And that's to make what you're saying more dramatic, because you're using the comma as a pause. So violently, he screamed. And the last one is the most complex way to use a comma, and that's with an embedded clause, which is a group of words that includes a subject and a verb that is within a clause. And so you would put 2 parentheses around that embedded clause. And then with colons, they're used to introduce a phrase, a word, sentence, quotation, or a list. And then it's also used to emphasize a word or a phrase. And this is the most common way that I know to use a colon, because you're trying to, when you're reading with a colon or you're writing, you want to make the reader pause and stop. And that's a way to make it more dramatic. So, like, if you're saying, there's one thing I can't stand, and you put a colon because you want that reader to kind of pause for, a dramatic pause and be like, oh my gosh, I wonder what they hate. So you'd say, there's one thing I can't stand, and then you put a colon, and for example, you just put like bugs. And it's also used to introduce an independent clause that explains what precedes it. And it's used to introduce a phrase with as follows or the following. But you do not use it with such as. And you don't use a colon to separate from a verb or preposition from its object. And semicolons, it allows to join related clauses of a compound sentence, or to sort complicated lists. It's also used to join two independent clauses that are closely related without using a conjunction. And it's used to imply relationships between two sentences. And this one I think is the most commonly known way to use a semicolon, which is used to separate independent clauses joined by conjunctive adverbs. And then you place the semicolon before the conjunctive adverb and a comma after it. And so that is my presentation on commas, colons, and semicolons.